Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks ever so much for joining us on this webinar. You're joined by me, Dave Roberts. I'm a business development manager for Race Group. So Race Group, we are Castrol's official distributor for the UK, and we support independent workshops and franchise workshops across the UK.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Aaron, and I am Castrol champion for the central of the UK. My job really is driving around the UK, talking to garage owners, offering oil advice and a little bit of oil education about using a good quality product.
So you joined us on this webinar today then, so we're going to be delving into a couple of things really. Mainly, we're trying to keep it simple: right oil, right car. We're going to look at wet belts. We're going to look at relationships between oil and DPFs, and we're also going to look at ACEA classification as well. A couple of specification changes we've popped in the presentation as well with reference to Castrol, and some formulation changes which may be beneficial to a few of you on here. So we'll kick off with the first slide then. If you're familiar with Castrol oil, we have three different types. We've got Castrol GTX, Castrol Magnatec, and Castrol Edge. So the function of the Castrol GTX is, when it's in an engine, is to help break down the sludge and to help stop or prevent sludge from building up around the engine during its lifetime. Castrol Magnatec used to be called dual lock technology. Now we've got cling lock protect. The reason for Castrol Magnatec's with its advanced formulation is, normally we know engine oil when the engine's switched off to drain back to the sump. Castrol Magnatec doesn't. It actually sticks and locks itself to moving components. Castrol Edge, this is our premium oil. You may see on the shelves all over in motor factors, etc. But Castrol Edge, the idea behind it and the formulation that goes into it, and I'll always use the example of when a cam lobe is coming round onto the bucket, there is always a layer of oil between the moving surfaces. Well, when the pressure is increased, the molecules behave differently in the Castrol Edge, and they actually become stiffer under pressure. And when the lobe has come back off the bucket and the pressure is released, the oil and the molecules return back to its normal state.
Okay, so I'm going to look at the importance of getting this right, selecting the right oil for the correct car. Quite often when we think about engine oil protection, we tend to think of the mechanical components first. So for instance, your crankshaft journals, your camshafts, etc. Well, in fact, your oil is responsible for doing so much more than that, and it's also responsible for protecting additional components that might not always come to mind. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is the oil immersed camshaft timing belt, aka the wet belt. So this design, the timing belt was designed to run in its own engine oil. The idea being behind it is that if we reduce the drag, i.e. reduce friction on our timing belt, then we're going to reduce emissions, because obviously the engine can turn freer. In return, we're going to have better fuel consumption. So the idea behind this design was good. Okay, now the problem with this design is that oil operates in a very harsh environment. Okay, it gets contaminated over time. People sometimes operate it with insufficient oil levels. They often put the wrong oil in, a cheap oil, the wrong grade of oil, which carries no approvals. You get something called blow-by in an engine, and what blow-by gases are, they are combustion gases that leak past the piston rings during combustion. Those combustion gases end up in the crankcase, and that then contaminates your oil. Now, within your combustion gases, you will have unburnt fuel, you will have soot, you will possibly have some fuel additives. All of this contributes to the deterioration of your wet timing belt. Now, what happens is your wet belt will start to swell. It will start to break up into small pieces. As you can see from the picture, you can see that the timing belt is broken up or is starting to break up. That has clogged up the pickup in the sump, which inevitably is going to starve the top end of the engine of vital oil, reduced oil pressure. It's going to lead to a whole catalogue of problems. Missed oil services, also a big no-no with this design. It's really important that you keep on top of your oil changes and you're using a good quality approved engine oil.
I think there's going to be a few different opinions about wet belts with the attendees in here, Aaron, but I've got my opinion on it. What is your opinion on a wet belt?
Do you really want me to answer that, Dave?
Go on. Yeah.
So look, the idea behind the wet belt is good. You know, reduced emissions and better fuel economy has got to be a good thing. Quieter running as well. I have seen some horror stories, as I'm sure many people on the call will have seen with this design. I've also seen some very good examples of where if people have stuck to the service intervals and they've used a quality approved oil, they won't have any problems. So yeah, that's my take on it, Dave.
Yeah, I mean we've seen a few with customers, you know, regular oil changes, etc. As long as if they're sticking to the service regime that the OEM has laid out, there's not really much that can go wrong. But yeah, I think there's a couple of bullet points on there which you've mentioned. Missed oil services seems to be a one where the oil is obviously going to be working a lot harder there. But yeah, no, cheers to that. I'm sure there's quite a few mixed opinions on wet belts with everybody.
I'm sure there is, Dave. Sure there is. Okay, the next component that we're going to look at and can be directly affected by poor oil selection is your EGR valve. Now, the EGR valve is part of the emission system, part of the exhaust system, and we're going to look at its relationship with something called SAPS. Okay, now SAPS is an acronym for sulfated ash, phosphorus, and sulfate. Now, all engine oils contain SAPS. SAPS is an additive found in engine oils. Okay, now some engine oils have a high content of SAPS, some have a medium, some have a low. Okay, now the problem with the SAPS is that when it's burned, it leaves behind a metallic residue that can't be removed. Now, it more affects DPFs and things like that. However, it will have an effect on your EGR valve. So an engine by right shouldn't really burn oil, but they all burn a little bit of oil. So therefore, when the oil, if we select the wrong oil with a high SAPS content, when it burns, it's going to just lead to the accelerated buildup on your EGR valve, DPFs, etc. Okay, so what you're looking for is a DPF friendly engine oil. So you're looking for an ACEA C rating, which we'll talk about later on in the presentation. I won't go too deep into that now.
Yeah, I mean, just leading on from what Aaron was saying there about a metallic content. So there is a small amount of oil that does get burnt with the fuel and air mixture. Obviously, when the power stroke has occurred and ignition, compression, etc. has occurred, that oil will be combusted with the fuel and air. However, due to that metallic content, which we call ash, that can't be burnt. It's what we call an inorganic component. So it can't be burnt, and there's only one place for that ash to then disappear. And that's when the piston comes up on the exhaust stroke, it goes out through the manifold and then into the DPF, where it will sit deep and lie within the pores of the DPF. So again, if you're using wrong oil, this can contribute to a greater pressure difference within the DPF. However, if there is a pressure difference, there is notable symptoms with lack of power in the vehicle. But yeah, if there is a great amount of pressure difference, excuse me, the exhaust gas pressure sensor will highlight this, and it will obviously illuminate the engine management light on the dash. But one thing to focus on here is, again, metallic content, what we call ash. As Aaron was mentioning about the difference in SAPS relations, there's different ash content or metallic content within each different oil. So however, again, like Aaron said, with the DPF, it's always good practice to follow your OEM specification, ensure you're using the right oil, and at least then you know that you're protected and safe, and the customer's vehicle will have a longer life due to you using the correct oil. Excuse me. Something that Castrol has just released this year, actually. It's quite a new one to us at the Race Group, although, however, we have sold quite a lot of cases to customers, is an aerosol DPF cleaner. So normally a lot of garages, they do like to remove and use a specialist machine. However, the Castrol type, you will just remove either the pre-temperature sensor or a pre-pressure sensor. It comes with about 1.5 meters of a nozzle and cable, and just poke it downwards into the DPF. Let it do its thing, and then obviously conduct a road test. Then, if active and passive regeneration isn't taking place, obviously then a forced regeneration must be taken or must take place. So the DPF cleaner is something that we at Race Group keep in our warehouse, and we are Castrol's route to market as well as the oil. So if there is any interest in the DPF cleaner, just let us know, and we will give some more information on that. However, it is all on the Castrol website too. As it's a new product to us and we've only just released it out into the market, a loyal customer of ours, a very good customer, James Jackson, actually gave us some good feedback on our social media platform about it. If you look in the bottom right corner, you can see the text that he's wrote there. It'll save a lot of time and effort removing and cleaning using specialist carbon clean machines, and he's just ordered himself a case. So as you can see, it does clean up the DPF, remove a good large amount of soot content. Excuse me. So some of you on the webinar here, you may have seen this chat floating around over social media or quite a few of the events taking place over the course of the years. This guy is Darren Darling. He is called the DPF Doctor, and without a shadow of a doubt, he is the industry leading DPF expert. He does recommend Castrol oil to his customers. The main focus of what Darren does, though, is people who have a DPF issue within their vehicle, they will go to him. He will complete a full assessment. However, he also does state to his customers that he recommends Castrol oil to his customers to ensure that that DPF is maintained and maintains the longevity of it.
Okay, Castrol guarantee. So Castrol are so confident in their oils, they offer all of their customers that get their vehicle serviced at an authorised Castrol workshop using GTX, Magnatec or Edge. They're offering them a free 12-month, 10,000 mile service guarantee. Now, this is no additional work for the service team. The customer will collect their car and be guided to the website where they can register for this 12-month, 10,000 mile service guarantee. In 12 months' time, when that guarantee has expired, they will also get a reminder from Castrol 4 weeks prior saying that your guarantee is about to expire. You need to go back and get it reserviced. So it also acts as a service reminder as well for the customer. It just gives them that additional peace of mind that they've got the full backing from Castrol. Okay, so we appreciate all of these oil grades. It can be a little bit of a headache, can lead to some confusion for garage owners. Okay, so rest assured, we are here to help. Problem being is manufacturers are constantly having to move the goalpost because obviously they need to change engine designs to meet different emission regulations, etc. The oil market has then got to follow because then they've got to make changes to the formulation, etc. So therefore, it's constantly changing and constantly evolving. However, like I said before, don't panic. You have got Castrol or the Race Group that will offer any advice and support on any product changes.
So something we're going to look at now is the ACEA. So ACEA is a European classification, and it's the equivalent to the API, which they use in the States. Again, as Aaron's just said, the oil market today is driven by the OEM, and it's an absolute nightmare. There's a 530C3, there's a 530C3 for this, and then there's another 530C3 for that. However, what we've noticed is there's quite a few people who will offer a particular 530C3, and it's not the correct 530C3 that the garage is after. But just going a tangent at the moment, we're just going to look at the different types of classifications and their understandings. So if we look at the Castrol container on the right-hand side, we can see that there is a viscosity grade, so it's a 5W30, and it's these little letters and numbers after that that make a difference as well. So in this case, it's a C4. But if you ever see an A or a B, the A means it's compatible for a petrol engine. The B means it is compatible for a light-duty diesel engine. And the C is probably the most common one that, if there's any technicians or workshop owners in this webinar, C is probably the most common one that you will see on today's market. And the C means that it's compatible with a three-way catalyst or a DPF filter. There is also an E classification as well, and that is just compatible for a heavy-duty diesel engine. But sticking with the ACEA ratings, again, we've just highlighted there that there's a 530A5B5. So we can see from this oil that it is compatible for a petrol engine, and it's also compatible for a light-duty diesel engine also.
Sorry, Dave, can I just jump in there? So obviously you said that the C is the most common one, which we know.
Yeah.
Do you see much take up on the ACEA E in the workshops that you visit?
Yes and no. There are customers that do stock it. I'm quite glad you asked that, actually, because that actually leads on to the next slide. So yeah, customers are stocking the E-type ACEA. It is becoming a bit more common than what people actually think. The 530 E6, E9, which is in the Castrol Vecton, we call it a Vecton because it's part of the HGV range of oil, but that's becoming more of a common oil. Mainly noted in the Isuzu D-Maxes and some light commercial vehicles. However, though, the majority of light commercials do still use the C2 and C3 ACEA. But yeah, no, thanks for that, Aaron. I mean, the E-type classification, garage owners are seeing it probably on a daily basis anyway, but it is becoming a bit more common than what we actually think.
Cheers, Dave.
Sticking with the C-type classification, we've got numbers next to them as well. So C1 is a low SAPS fuel efficient oil, and it is only really seen in a 530 viscosity. So when you start looking at the not so old, but in the Jaguar Land Rover types, probably from 2015 onwards, you will see a 530 C1. So that has to be a very fuel efficient oil. And obviously at the factory at Jaguar Land Rover, they've specified that they want a very fuel efficient oil. C2, we've got mid-SAPS, which is, again, it's a mid-SAPS, C2 is a mid-SAPS fuel efficient oil. Notably, you only see it in the viscosity grades of 530 and 030. Again, those grades and that ACEA is more aimed mainly towards the PSA group. The most common one, which is C3, it's a mid-SAPS non-fuel efficient oil, but it's only a non-fuel efficient oil when we compare it to the C2 ACEA. So the C3 you will see in a 530 viscosity grade, which seems to be the very common one, a 540, a 040, and also a 030 grade as well. C4 is a low SAPS non-fuel efficient oil, but that's only when it's compared to a C1. And again, that is only in a 530 grade. You will only see that. That 530 C4 mainly points towards part of the Renault group and also some Nissans as well. C5 is a mid-SAPS fuel efficient oil when compared to a C2 and C3 ACEA rating. And the C5 viscosity ranges are from a 0 to 20 to a 520. However, a 020 grade is the more prominent grade that will have a C5 ACEA rating. Again, something worth to keep note of as well is the C2, C3 and the C5 oils. They do have a familiar similar formula and chemical properties. However, they have a different high temperature, high shear rating. And basically what that means is the lower the high temperature, high shear number means that it has more fuel efficient. Sorry, it's a more fuel efficient oil, the lower the number. I'll leave that on screen quick, actually. It's quite a good one for people to take away and have the understanding of it, whether you screenshot it or take a quick picture of it. But it's certainly one that's very important. And when we do talk to garage owners these days, the education side of it isn't really there with the understandings of what C1, C2, etc. means. But yeah, it's quite an important one to know, and it will help your journey in the lubrication industry.
Okay, so the steps to take to get it right, basically, the right oil, the right car. So you can do this in just 3 critical steps. Okay, the first step being select the correct grade, so the correct viscosity of oil. Okay, so whether it be a 030, a 530, a 1040, you've got to get that correct first. Step 2, as Dave's just said, it's to select the correct ACEA rating, whether it be an A5, B5, a C1, C2, C3. And then the final step is going to be to check the approval code. Okay, so again, you can see on screen that this oil is a 030, it's an ACEA C2, and it's got a PSA approved B712312 code next to it. So they're your 3 steps to ensure that you get it right, and it's worth taking the time to make sure you do get it right. Okay, approved versus meets. So this is a conversation I have with garage owners on a daily basis. So on the back of an oil container, you'll see a list of meets requirements, suitable for use or recommended. Okay, and then alongside that, hopefully you will see a list of approvals. They're not the same thing. Okay, so meets requirements, suitable or recommended means it's you know, it meets the spec. However, it hasn't been tested by the OEM. Okay, and they haven't given it full approval. So what you're looking for, or the important thing, is the list of approvals. Now, it could take months or years to gain these approvals, because obviously the OE has got to put that oil through its paces, through its stringent testing procedure. However, once it's got the approval, yeah, you're good to go. It's fine for warranty work, etc. And obviously, we'd always recommend that you use an approved oil over a meets spec.
I guess the simplest way to put this, Aaron, meets requirements and approved, just to the people watching, is a meets requirements and suitable is, let's say me and Aaron go into a business together. We make a 530 C3. We can put on the data sticker then that it meets LL04 BMW, 504, 507 Volkswagen Audi. So we can do that. However, it hasn't been to the OE for ACEA approval and also for the OEM approval. So meets requirements, suitable and recommended means it's had no approval. And I guess the question begs, who's saying it meets the requirements?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Castrol updates on oil specs. 2024 has been a busy year. And I think this next slide, if you're in the independent market, if there's any franchise dealers in here from a certain OEM, it's been a busy year. And all I can say is PSA, Stellantis, where do we start with it? So last year, PureTech engines, it's become a bit of a headache. It's become a nightmare even for us at the race group, and no doubt it's become a headache for Aaron at Castrol. So last year we saw the launch of our Castrol Magnatec 020 FE, which was designed and approved for the PSA B71 2010 approval. I've left this slide in on purpose because when I delivered this presentation in August last year, this at the time was correct. So everything we knew was on a 020 specification. Then it got changed. So PSA Stellantis, they moved the 1.5 diesel engines in the PureTex to a 530 specification. Then we got told that certain engine codes from 2017 to 2023 would be taking the 530 grade. And then anything registered after 2023 will continue to use the 020 FE. So that's how it was left last year. Now the question is, what's changed? And I'll tell you what, a lot has changed. If you're not familiar already, Stellantis came out in October 24 and made a mandatory specification change. So a lot of the grades we thought that were on 020 FE have now changed to the FPW9 Fiat specification. As you can see on screen, there are a list of engine codes there: EB2AD, EB2D, DV5R, and the DW12RU. They're the affected engine codes that have now moved to the new Fiat Stellantis specification. However, some of the PSA group as well, so the 530P now covers 78% of Peugeots, 83% of Citroens, and 44% of the DS models. It is also worth noting as well, some Vauxhalls are affected by this as well, mainly the Grandland and the Crossland. Another good thing, though, about the new Castrol Magnatec 530P, it also carries the approval for the B71 2290 and the B71 2297. That is the older Peugeot Citroens that used to take the 530 C2 grade. So our Castrol Magnatec covers a hell of a lot of that car park. So the question begs now then, PSA B71 2010. Is there still a requirement for it? In short, yes, there is. The B71 2010 is still in circulation. However, our Castrol Magnatec version also now, through formulation change, carries the Fiat DM1 specification. So not just PSA, it's also carrying a Fiat specification as well. Again, another busy year for Castrol last year. Edge 020 LLIV, or Long Life 4, however you want to call it. So June 2024, prior to that, this oil was only for the VAG 508-509, a specification. However, due to formulation change, we've now managed to get the BMW LL17 FE Plus specification in there. We've also got the Mercedes-Benz 229.71 and 229.72 spec in there. Also, which isn't on the slide, we're also covering a Ford specification on there. Some of you may know that Ford and Volkswagen have gone into a partnership together. And I think when you look at the Volkswagen Caddy, it's identical to the Ford Connect, I think it is. So that's using a Volkswagen engine, hence why there is a Ford spec on what I predominantly class as the VAG oil. Some of the lube companies, it's quite noticeable, they have a blue or green tinge to it. However, due to the formulation change from last year, ours is now like a yellow, lighty, brownish colour. And that, again, that's only just down to the formulation change. Sticking with the Ford and Volkswagen relationship, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So if we have any VW specialists on this webinar, just bear in mind now that the Volkswagen Amarok is now using a Ford engine, and it will now take the Ford 530A5 oil. So that's something just to keep in mind. It's all been a lot of change. And there's something else I need to mention to you as well, which I haven't done a slide for. Ford EcoBoosts from 2019 onwards, if it's a 1 litre or 1.5, there is now a new oil spec for it. So it won't take the 520E. However, that's what we class it as in Castrol. It's now taking a 020E. But the good thing about the 020E, it is all backwards compatible for the older EcoBoosts also. So that's just one to keep in mind.
Okay, so Castrol have recently released their new car care range. Very good, this stuff. Now, Dave spent some time earlier on in the presentation talking about the benefits of the DPF cleaner. But within that car care range, we've got a brake cleaner, clutch and brake cleaner. Very, very good at removing what you'd expect, obviously oil, grease and residue. Sorry, leaving no residue. A multi-purpose spray. Again, very good, lubricating door hinges, locks, etc. A rust remover, a silicone spray for your door seals, your window channels, etc. And they also doing a radiator flush, a radiator cleaner. Okay, so simply drop your coolant, run this through the system with water, drain it out again, and then that's going to hopefully leave your cooling system nice and clean.
Yeah, cheers, Aaron. And it is also worth noting as well that these products are available to independent workshops, obviously through the race group. So we are Castrol's route to market. So if you're interested in any of these products, again, just get in touch with us, which we'll let you know about at the end of this presentation.
Definitely, and feedback has been very good on these products as well, hasn't it, Dave?
Feedback has, yeah, especially the DPF cleaner. Obviously, we've had James Jackson's review there. The brake and clutch cleaner, again, I've had several customers that have given good feedback on that. And also the rust remover seems to be selling like hotcakes as well at the moment. But yeah, just waiting for some feedback on silicone spray now.
Okay, the next one is engine shampoo. This one's been around a little while, but it's a very, very good engine shampoo. It's a pre-oil, pre-service treatment. So obviously it goes in before you get the car on the ramp, ideally. Leave the engine running for 10 minutes and then drain the oil. And then it's what that's going to do, it's going to remove your sludge and contaminants. Now, engine oil, if it's doing its job right, because obviously we know one of the jobs of the engine oil is to clean our engine. If it's doing its job right, it should remove a good amount of your sludge residue anyway. However, this will just give it a little bit of a helping hand. Now, the good thing about this engine shampoo is that it's solvent free, which means it's great for your wet belts. It's not going to attack it. It's not going to hurt your wet belts. It's good for engine seals, etc. So yeah, it's a very good product. And again, feedback's very good on this product.
Aaron, I've never heard of engine shampoo, but I guess it's like a pre-oil treatment, is it?
Yeah, pre-oil treatment. So yeah, you pop it in. So note for all you service advisors out there, if you do get a chance to upsell it before the car goes on the ramp, because obviously as soon as the sump plug's removed, you miss your opportunity. So yeah, it's a pre-treatment. Just run it through for 10 minutes before you drain the oil.
And so I go into garages and I see other brands in there that they use. What makes this one different to the others then?
Probably the biggest selling point for this one is probably the fact that it's solvent free. I know a lot of others on the market do contain solvents, so I'd always be a little bit skeptical about putting those in my engine, possibly damaging seals, wet belts, for instance. Gotcha. So this one's safe to use for all of those.
Okay, lovely, cheers. So we've got Castrol Transmax then, something that's always been slipped under the radar over the time that I've been with Race Group. However, the Castrol Transmax products are now coming out into the market and they've been doing extremely well. So they have advanced formulations, as you'd expect from Castrol, to ensure smooth shifting, durability and optimal performance. So the one in the bottom left there, that's the one that seems to be getting sold quite a lot, and it's called Transmax Dual. And it is for the VAG DSG range dual clutch. Not also just the VAG range, it covers some of the BMW. I think it's the DCT-F2 range it covers as well. There's also a Mercedes-Benz it covers, and it also covers the new Ford Power Shift as well. So Castrol have got some really good auto and manual gearbox fluids. Again, Race Group, we're route to market for Castrol in that manner as well. So if any of those tickle your fancy, then please get in touch and we can give you some more information on them.
Okay, one thing we offer to our customers is a really handy quick reference guide. Like we've spoken about before, it can be a little bit of a headache. trying to decipher all these oil grades. So this quick reference guide comes in handy. It lists the Magnatec, the Edge, the GTX product. So we do an online version as well of this, but we also do a handy hard copy to keep in your workshops. So down the left hand side, you've got your manufacturers. Along the top, you've got your oil grade, and then directly below each oil grade, you've got your manufacturer code and your ACEA rating. So it's pretty self-explanatory, and it's quite useful.
So we've heard about ACEA classification. Aaron's talked you through SAPs and also the wet belts. Castrol, what can we do to help your team and your business? So it's not just Castrol, it's us at the Race Group as well. So one thing we could provide workshops with is one of our lovely looking 20-litre stands. It holds 9 20 litres. We do barrels for your most common oils, and for your least common oils, we can also, the stand holds 9 of the 20 litres on there. By stocking the oil, it actually does work out a little bit cheaper than buying individual service kits. In some instances, it works out a hell of a lot cheaper. But yeah, we can supply you guys with the right oil for the right car.
Dave, can I just jump in there again, mate?
Yeah, go on.
So what sort of things, people on the call might be thinking, what sort of things you can do for them regards stock pack? So how do you know that you're putting the right oils in? I.e.,
Sure.
they don't want a 20 litre on there that they're not going to use. So what do you do for that?
Yeah, so what we do, we without blowing our own trumpet, we're good at what we do. There's 2 ways we can do it. We can either cross-reference what the customer wants or what the customer already has. However, I don't prefer doing it that way because, as we've seen, specification changes will differ in other lubes companies' oils. So ours might be a 520, the other lube company might be a 020. So it's not the correct way of doing it. However, we have done in the past like that. However, what we do, and I think this is what we do really well, is we work with our customer. We take a list of registrations of their customer database, and we convert those registrations into the grades of oils. So we break it all down, find all the common denominators, and we create a stock pack to the customer's car park. So at least then, when they've got their customer coming in, at least they know that they're going to have the oil. The other thing that we do as well is each garage will have a dedicated account manager. So you can always be sort of rest assured that you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to be told about new product specification changes, any new oils that are due on the market. You will be one step ahead of the game, and we can always ensure that we can add additional grades to your car park if you need them. We're not interested in flogging oil that no one's ever going to use. What we're focused on is ensuring that our customers have a tailored stock pack to their customer car park. Okay, I hope that answers it, Aaron.
Yeah, it does. Cheers. Okay, another thing that we offer is a really convenient online lookup tool. So the idea with this tool is you input your registration, and then what's going to come up for you is the oil that it requires, the grade and the ACEA, etc. It's going to give you fill quantities. Okay, so capacity. It's going to give you a drain interval. You can see the picture there is a Volkswagen Golf. You can see the engine code, so you can make sure that you're definitely dealing with the right car. It's got how much oil goes into it. It's got the drain interval, and it's saying that it's on an Edge 020. As well as this, there'll be an additional drop down where we can look at transmission fluids, again quantities. We can look at brake fluid, we can look at coolant, etc. So it's really easy and convenient, and it just gives you the peace of mind that you're doing the right thing for the car.
And it doesn't matter if you're a small, medium or large garage. We do have a branded workshop package for every garage, whether, like I said, you be small, medium or large. On screen there are 2 of our customers, DR Automotive in the top right, and the absolute stunning RSV Automotive in the bottom right, both who have been with us for a considerable amount of time now. And again, we've got a branded package for everybody. But as mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we don't just cater for the independent workshop. we also cater for franchise workshops also. And on screen there are quite a few of the OEMs we actually supply the oil to. So not just independent, we can also cater for franchise workshops also. And just to summarize what we've covered in this presentation, then, so we've looked at the wet belt. We've looked at causes of incorrect oil and what it can do to a DPF. So just remember that ash, which is the metallic content that will sit within the pores of the DPF. So again, we always like to keep it simple, ensure you've got the right oil for the right car. Aaron went through SAP's comparison with you. We've looked at ACEA classification, Castrol engine shampoo, and again, the new oil formulation, especially within the PSA range, the 020 LLIV, it's all changing. So just bear in mind, and one thing maybe take away from this presentation, whatever oil you put in a customer's car last year might not be the same again this year. Hence why it's always important to use, in our instance, our Castrol oil lookup finder. And finally, just keep it simple, right oil, right car. And if you are interested in finding out anything about what we do, we post some great pictures of customers' garages, what they look like. You can follow us on all the social media channels at the Race Group. And thank you ever so much for listening to our presentation. I hope it's been some benefit and some use to you.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, everybody.
Thanks, Dave and Aaron. That was really comprehensive. Just to let you know, there is one question that is in the chat
Sure.
from Jeremy, and he's asking, can E-rated oils be used where C ratings are noted?
Say that again, sorry, Michelle.
It says, can E-rated oils be used where C ratings are noted? So I'm guessing he's asking, does E rating supersede C? Or
no,
can you use an E-rated where there's a C-rated?
No, unfortunately you can't. It is an absolute minefield, don't get me wrong. So E-type ACEA is only sort of classified for HGV vehicles. However, the Isuzu D-Max, we are seeing a vast array of those. I would always stick to whatever the OEM has stated, whether it's a C2, a C3, always need to stick with that. The only reason I'm saying that is because if that E-rated ACEA is formulated differently, it again, what we've been through in the presentation, it could cause some issues.
Thanks for clearing that up, Dave. Yeah, thank you. If there's any other questions, the Q&A is open, or you can just raise your hand and Dave and Aaron will take them. There's one there from Isaac.
I've just seen a question flag up about C-rated for a PPF. Yeah, so petrol particulate filters, they are classed within like the C-rated ACEA. So we don't leave it in the slide, but yes, C-rated ACEAs are for three-way catalysts, DPFs, and also PPFs also.
And Isaac's got a question for you, Dave.
Who, sorry?
Isaac.
Sure, yeah.
Isaac, Hope, can you unmute? Oh, that's it.
Can you hear me?
Thanks. Yes,
yeah,
thank
just
you.
Unmuted.
So, if the car isn't driven much, like at all, say it's a very old person that barely gets around, does the oil still need changing regularly, or is it longer, or is it shorter? Because I know I've seen a few oils that turn very like creamy, like go whitish when they're barely used.
Yeah, normally that's just condensation buildup. Normally, if you're talking about taking the oil filler cap off, I would always say, regardless of time, distance, I would always stick to the OE's service schedule. So if they're saying 1 year, 10,000 mile, I would always stick with that OE spec of what they're saying.
Yeah, I second that as well, Dave. Definitely.
And there is another question in the chat for Aaron or Dave, which says, where are the approval letters located for the products?
Yeah, so normally, sometimes on the back of oil containers, it'll say, i.e. PSA approval or MB approval for Mercedes-Benz. What I would always check is with Castrol, they're readily available on the internet. They have what they call product data sheets. You can always go on some reason Castrol call them PDS. So if you've got a particular oil that you're looking for, just go onto Google and type in GTX 530C3 PDS, and it'll be the first link there, and the product data sheets will tell you which ones are approved.
Yep, but they're all on the Castrol website.
That's it.
So you can just look under the products as well. And of course, we as the race group can supply them to you as well. Okay, and there's another question coming from Jeremy. Do Castrol and the race group offer oil testing for fleet users to shorten or prolong changes? I suppose I could probably take that one.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have oil monitoring available, Jeremy. It's something that we can do, and we do work with fleets to do that. So it is something that you can just reach out to us on, or we can follow up after this call.
I think one thing I would just like to say quickly, and my apologies for not putting it in the presentation, if any of our branded offers are of interest to you, or you're just interested in stocking Castrol oil, you will have a dedicated account manager. Also, there is on the Castrol website, there is a register my interest. If you just want to fill one of those out, and one of our team will get back to you. No obligation, no stress. It's just a visit. Come and see what we can do to help you.
There's a further question.
Yeah.
It says, surely now oils are precise in design. Adding a flush before draining the oil when the oil is at its worst isn't a great idea for damage or moving sludge, etc., to block turbo oil ways. Yeah,
so thanks ever so much for that question. Now, this is one thing that we actually asked Castrol Technical on. So if it's a solvent based, apparently it breaks the chunks of carbon off at a larger rate. However, due to ours not containing solvent, it'll break it down very gradually. It doesn't break it off in chunks. It's just a very smooth and small way of breaking it down. People have their thoughts on flushes. We've got customers that do them on every service. We've got garages that don't like doing them. I guess it's just a personal preference. I guess the only time I would probably advise for a flush to be done would be if it's a vehicle that you've never seen before and you don't know the history of it.
Yeah, I think also, Dave, I read somewhere that every other service as well is advisable.
It is it? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't see any more questions, Dave and Aaron. So I'll hand over you to close. And if anyone does have any further questions, then please just reach out to us via our social media, or you can get hold of us at the race group as well.
Yeah, so for me, I just want to say thank you ever so much. I cover pretty much from up to Manchester and the majority of Wales anyway. So if ever you fall into that area and you're interested in just a chat about oils, or if there's any help to your team that you would like, then yeah, just reach out. And thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, same from me, really. Appreciate your time this afternoon. I'm sure you're all very busy, but thanks for taking the time out to come and listen to what Dave and myself have got to say. And yeah, thank you.
Right. I shall love you and leave you all. Thanks ever so much, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you soon.
Thanks all. Thank you.